Hi, so who are you?
I'm Russ Jacobs from Washburn University in Topeka, Kansas.
Welcome to Rome. Good to have you here. So tell us a little bit about conjugal marriage and comprehensive union.
Well, we're all, I think, quite familiar with the fact that traditional marriage is under assault, that the notion that marriage is between a man and a woman is increasingly not accepted by people. So proponents of the traditional view, the conservatives, are looking increasingly for arguments to support their position. It used to be that you didn't need arguments, but now you do, so what are they going to be? One of, I think, the most influential arguments, perhaps that's the wrong word, one of the best arguments is one that Sharif Girgis, Ryan Anderson, and Robbie George have produced. It's in a long paper and a short book called What is Marriage? And they are supporting a very conservative traditional notion of marriage as essentially a union of one man and one woman, exclusive, monogamous, and permanent. The key to this, as in the title of the poster up there, is that conjugal marriage, real marriage, requires comprehensive union. Comprehensive union is a union of will and body. Without both of those forms of union, it isn't a real marriage, it isn't a conjugal marriage, and the only way you can get the bodily union that's crucial here is through coitus. The coitus doesn't have to be actually procreated. It has to be what they call apt for procreation. They never define that very carefully, but I think you see sort of what they're getting after. Now, it seems to me that this argument involves three crucial claims, and that each of these claims are inadequately defined, inadequately supported by, well, I call them GAG. Perhaps that's not a fair way of referring to it, but it's convenient. First of all, that real marriage requires this comprehensive union, both a union of will and a union of body, and that comprehensive union requires bodily union. And the only way you can get bodily union as both a necessary and sufficient condition is coitus. And each of these has, I think, serious objections that they have not adequately responded to. First of all,
could I just interrupt for just a second? Yeah. So let me ask, because many people won't have read the GAG.
Most people haven't.
Yeah.
That's right.
So although I'm sure a lot of people have. Could you tell us a little bit about? So I got a clear picture, I think, of what the claim is here. Can you say a little bit about the methodology or the sort of basis for the claim? So is it like semantic analysis, like this is the best understanding of the word, or is it based on natural law theory, or is there some other kind of combination? Why are we supposed to accept this prima facie before we get to the objection?
Sure. It's based upon something that's called new natural law.
Okay.
And it's a revision of traditional Thomist natural law. None of these three, and I was asked this several times today, are philosophers per se, but they all have a pretty firm grip on this new natural law. They've been using this approach to file amicus briefs with courts hearing gay marriage cases. So this is a very influential form of argument, even though, as you say, most people haven't heard about it. But it's basically a revision of something that I would think of as being more theology than philosophy. They descend intellectually from a man named Germain Grisey, and he is pretty clearly a Roman Catholic theologian, a very conservative Roman Catholic theologian. So they come from that tradition, and their arguments, as you would expect from somebody called a new natural lawyer, very intricate, very complex, very difficult to summarize and respond to.
Fair enough.
Directly.
Yeah, so why don't we talk a little bit about the objections that you were concerned to raise against their position?
Okay, so the first objection that is to the first assumption here, that is that real marriage requires comprehensive union. And so I know we talk this way, but why exactly would we say that real marriage, that conjugal marriage, must require this comprehensive union? And the answer, at least in part, is that because if we don't have conjugal marriage, then there's no point in the state supporting marriage. So only conjugal marriage is worthy of support. Comprehensive union is crucial to conjugal marriage. Therefore, comprehensive union is crucial to real marriage. They give you a dilemma. Either we accept the necessity of comprehensive union, or we give up any reasoned basis for state support of marriage. Now, what I've tried to do next is to offer a counterexample. A single instance of a type of marriage that's not conjugal, and that still seems apt for state support, would be well deserving of state support. And this is Elizabeth Brake's minimal marriage. And minimal marriage is basically a marriage based upon a caring relationship. She argues that minimal marriage is a necessary basis for caring. Caring is one of Rawls' primary goods. and therefore the state would be justified in supporting minimal marriage. If that's the case, then conjugal marriage is not necessary to state support, and this particular argument for comprehensive union fails.
And so is the key move there that a caring relationship itself, is this a good that's sufficiently important to justify state support? Is it?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Absolutely.
Okay, you want to move us on? Yeah.
Objection number 2 is to the claim that comprehensive union is necessary to real marriage, and the claim here is that only in coitus do they coordinate towards a common biological end. This provides the bodily union which is necessary to a comprehensive union. But in order to make this claim work, they actually have to argue that what we have here is two people who literally become one flesh. Not metaphorically, not figuratively, but literally. And the basis of this objection here, there's a long version of it in the paper that I've written, is that this simply does not seem like a sufficient or a necessary connection that would provide for one flesh. But suppose it did. Then Bamforth and Richards have suggested that if coitus did render two people one flesh, it would seem that human beings are not really sexual reproducers, because sexual reproduction involves two individuals coming together, perform a sex act, which results in a new life. But if these are just one flesh, then there's no sexual reproduction.
And so when you say that the claim involves them becoming literally one flesh as opposed to metaphorically one flesh, does one flesh mean the same thing as one organism? It's literally one organism at that time, or is that not clear?
They never use the word one organism. They talk about one body.
Okay.
But I think that it would be a fair extension to say one organism. Yeah.
Okay, and then that's the basis for the claim that this has implausible implications?
That's right.
Okay,
exactly.
Good. Right.
Exactly.
So yeah, we got time for a little bit on objection 3 then?
Yep. And these two are very closely connected. It's necessary and sufficient condition. Here, I try to show that it's not necessary. Here, I try to show even that it's not sufficient. They say for two individuals to unite organically, their bodies must coordinate towards a common biological end of the whole that they form together. And what I want to argue here is that they appeal to a biologically necessary element. It must be coordinating towards a common biological end. That seems to me to be arbitrary, that there could be other ends that we could coordinate towards that would have the same sort of impact. And the reason why they emphasize the biological connection, I think, is because this is a stand-in for reproduction. Reproduction is an unsuccessful argument against, say, gay marriage, but they try to get the same results without mentioning, at least explicitly, reproduction here. So I think, as I say here, the argument relies on a suppressed assumption that marriage is for reproduction. That's a discredited argument that they've tried to avoid, but I think they simply sneak it in the back door.
Okay, thanks. And what sort of questions, comments, what came up during discussion during your poster session?
Well, most of the people that came by had not heard of or read the article or the arguments. They weren't familiar with it, so a lot of what I was doing is just simply trying to inform people of what's going on here. And by the way, recommending that people have a look at the long article and the book, both by the same title, because I think it's worth reading. But beyond that, one comment that I got in sometimes politer forms than others was that, well, isn't this really a straw man argument? This is such a bad argument that you're just shooting fish in a barrel here. And I suppose there may be something to that, except the argument is so complex, so intricate, that it seems obviously false only after you pick the pieces together. A little bit of context here. I've been teaching in an ethics class the ethics of gay marriage for a long time. Most of the arguments against gay marriage have seemed both to me and my students to be pretty lame. And so when I came across this argument, I thought, well, that's a lot better than the usual arguments. Okay. I thought initially that it was obviously wrong, but it wasn't immediately clear why. So what I've tried to do here is not so much shoot fish in a barrel as to figure out exactly where the argument goes wrong.
Okay, great, thanks. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us, and enjoy the rest of Rome.
Sure, thank you.
All right.